haven't said a whole lot of this, but it was escort
Okay.
agency. I saw an ad in a paper. I was 18 with a mindset of 12 maybe. And I was like, hey, that sounds good. I'll get paid. So I got on a bus, which ended me up on a plane. And I showed up in a town that I had no idea what I was doing, who I was meeting, where I was going. And it spiraled so far that I lost everything, got kicked out of the state.
Then.
The rest of the
Mhm.
time, it's been heavy addiction because I needed to drown out what was in here. My nightmare was I hung out with the wrong people and I caused a car accident and I picked up an armed robbery and assault with a deadly weapon charge and I never went home again. Well, until I came home.
What happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? Hi, I'm Brent Cassity. Welcome to the Nightmare Success In and Out podcast, where we explore how to overcome your fears and nightmares to set yourself free. We're going to be exploring this topic with guys I was in Leavenworth with and others who survived their own nightmare. These stories can be inspiring, sometimes sad. There's some humor, but hopefully you can come away with a nugget of something that'll help you knock down some of the prisons you built up in your own mind. All right, welcome back. Nightmare Success. And now, listeners, this is where you come for what happens when your worst fear becomes your reality. How do you adapt, survive, overcome, set yourself free? Folks, don't forget to follow, subscribe, share this thing out, like it up. Really appreciate it. It helps the show. So who are we talking to today on Nightmare Success? We're talking to Kristin Kline. And I first want to give a big shout out to Kristen Johnson, who's been on this show, and she connected me to Kristen. And, you know, I think if I think about, I just told Kristen this before we got it. She's like energy and inspiration. You just bottle it up. And if you could just like sell that at the store, I think it would just sell out over and over and over. But I thought I was reading up on her it was in an interview, and I thought this was such a great quote. One of the questions was, how would you like to be remembered? And Kristen said, I want my legacy to be a disruption, not a whisper of inspiration, but a full volume, soul shifting mic drop moment that moves people to rise. I want people to say she didn't just change her life. She cracked the code and handed it out to others for a blueprint. I love that because that's exactly what she does. This is what Kristen does. She found fitness being incarcerated in prison, and she's gone out now. And just to give you a little bit of background about her, um, she builds systems that rebuilds people. After transforming her own life post incarceration, she launched Convicted Comeback and Coach Zero Excuses, two powerhouse brands that disrupt cycles of trauma, recidivism, and generational dysfunction through fitness, mindset, and education. Kristen's developed reentry boot camps, fitness certifications.
It's a rough one.
Certifications. I can say it. And transformational programs for incarcerated women, turning facilities into classrooms, trauma into power, and survivors into leaders. And she's now building scalable, credentialed programs that bridge the prison yard to the college campus and changing the conversation around what's possible for women after prison. Wow. I can't wait to jump into all this. Before we do, I want to recognize our show sponsor, Autoplaza Direct. You know, who likes spending a couple of weekends walking car lots, looking for a car. Then you spend 4 or 5 hours at the dealership to buy a car. It's kind of like a root canal appointment. Well, there's a better way to take away all that pain and hassle getting a car. It's called Autoplaza Direct. They're your personal car concierge. You just tell them the car you want, what you can pay, and they'll go find that car for you. They'll negotiate your best price. They also offer you warranties and financing. It's all full service. Go to autoplazadirect.com to get started with your personal car concierge, the new hassle-free way, the car buying experience you deserve. Autoplaza Direct. Tell them Brent from Nightmare Success sent you. Folks, I want to share with you a powerful and moving new book you won't want to miss. My Name is Saffron. Voices, silenced, stifled, and taken away by author Saffron Gustafson. This isn't just a story. It's a journey through resilience, survival, and reclaiming your voice after being silenced for far too long. Saffron's story takes you inside the hidden struggles, the pain, and ultimately the triumph of refusing to be defined by circumstances. As Saffron was putting the finishing touches on her book, the prison she had just been released from, Federal Dublin FCI, was permanently closed because of sexual abuse of the women prisoners. If you've ever wondered what it takes to rise from the darkness of places, to find your truth, and to speak it boldly, this book will inspire you. Pick up your copy of My Name is Saffron today, available now on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Trust me, you'll be moved, challenged, and changed by her story. Okay, Kristin Kline, how are you doing?
I am fabulous.
Well, I have been excited to talk to you because I just told you I've been watching all this stuff that you do, and then the reaction that you get from these women after they go through your classes, and you see some people are just like bottled up in a fetal position, and then their faces open up with smiles, and you can just tell what you're doing means something. And there's a difference. I always notice there's a difference in prison. When I was in prison, when you played sports and different things, it felt like for that moment that you were doing that, it was an escape, that you felt like you weren't there, you were somewhere else, that made you feel more normal. And you've turned this into a system. And I think it's so cool that you have taken what inspired you behind the walls to go out and give it out as you say, as a blueprint. Kristen, take us back. Did you grow up in Arizona? Is the family grow up in Arizona? Where did you come from?
My earliest memory was that I was adopted
Okay.
and I grew up here in Arizona. My parents were from back east, Chicago and St. Louis.
Oh, St. Louis,
And
that's where I'm at.
yes, yeah. And then here I was. And yep, heart of Arizona.
And did you have going into this adopted family, how old were you when you were adopted?
So I was very young. It was days.
Okay, so you didn't know anything else, then that was
No.
your family. Were there
Yes.
siblings? I mean, what's give us a little hint of what that life was like as a
Okay.
kid,
Little insight.
Little Kristen.
So, I did have a younger brother, also adopted. He was from Seoul, Korea. My
Okay,
parents knew very early on that they couldn't have children of their own, so they wanted to adopt, which they were both teachers, educationers, not a lot of money in that,
yeah.
and, they had their heart set on it. So it's a big investment. That's a huge expense. Um, but as a child, you don't look at it like that. So right off the bat, that set me off in this black sheep didn't belong. Something's wrong with me, you know, phase
So, ho I
mindset.
always wonder, like, when you're a kid and you're adopted, like, how early on did you know that you were adopted? Like, where did that come into your life?
I don't remember not knowing. My parents did very good with that. I know many other families that chose not to, and I don't think that's right. I
Yeah,
think that every situation is different. Parenting is hard, in general. But
yeah,
I think that the truth is always the way to go. And people have feelings that we don't discuss. And why withhold that? That's a placement identity. And I
right,
struggled with it. And it wasn't for any other reason except visually, I didn't look like my parents. And personality wise, we clashed. And so instead of that was a different generation. Instead of trying to understand it and figure out where you fit in, which, social media and things like that help us figure that out and find that connection. Back then
yeah.
it was like you do or you don't.
So was school good for you? Did you like school?
My parents were two things, education and
Because your
religion.
parents were teachers, so,
Yes.
this is the reason I
Yes.
ask, like, if there's a kid that has teachers as parents, did you like school?
I loved school because I hated being home, to be
Okay,
honest.
okay,
Um, I've always had this energy. And so being at school was a good place to spend it. My parents made my brother and I work, and we worked by reading. Usually it was, you know, the Bible or
mhm,
educational books. And they wanted to instill in us good faith and education. And that was it. And that probably set the tone off right. And that's probably why I have a good head on my shoulders to come back to. To be honest, I'm grateful that they've instilled those things. And then just to top it off, they sent me to a private school my entire life, even though they both taught at public schools.
that's really interesting.
Mhm.
Was there a reason for that?
They knew better, and their thought and image was if they know what's inside the public school system, they would send my brother and I to a private school so we would have a better education and better opportunities. But as we know, same things are in public
Oh,
schools
yeah,
as private schools.
everywhere,
So,
yeah, you're right,
yeah.
so true. Okay, so you get through high school, it sounds like it went pretty well?
It did. I was an
What was your
athlete.
next step in life?
So I was an athlete. I was daddy's little girl. There wasn't a sport I didn't play, and I played them very well. Even the sports I didn't really think I wanted to play, like volleyball, I excelled in. So, varsity and all state was something that I excelled in. And playing college ball was something I thought was going to happen. But there was a lot of turmoil behind the scenes at home
Okay.
because I struggled a lot growing up, and my childhood behind closed doors was incredibly rough. It was dark. And I don't know how I survived it, to be honest. So,
Okay, that sounds deep. I mean, can you talk about, like, why was that so dark?
yes. So the very first time that I remember something traumatic happening, I was still in a diaper and I was sexually abused by the grandmother's neighbor boy. And I think that that kind of just set the tone from there on out because I do believe heavily in energy. And at that moment, I broke. And I think that that energy that I carried from then on out, the way that things were handled or lack thereof, then emitted. And it's like I just drew that in my whole childhood, and it didn't matter where I was going, that seemed to be what I find.
Mm,
So, when I graduated high school, instead of going the route of education and college, which I had in the bag, I
mhm.
left and I fled town and I decided to join the adult industry.
Wow, what Miss Independence. So you just and at this point in your life, Kristen, did your parents know that you were struggling with this, or is this something you just kept all within you, deep within you? Was it like a
My
discussion that
parents
they
knew.
tried to help you with, or was it something you just shut off and you kept to yourself?
When you're a child, you go through a lot of different emotions. Looking back on it now, my parents and I have come very, very far. Um, there was a long detest for how they handled things because what I wanted was somebody to grab me, protect me, and make all the bad guys disappear. But
Right.
my parents are a forgive and turn the other cheek, and they were also in a generation where things occurred to them, or happened to them as well, but their families taught them to be seen and not heard.
Mhm.
And so it's the trauma that we pass through the generations and the stigmas that we give and allow, and you learn to be silent. And then I guess when it just brews so much, you explode, right? So then it comes out as disciplinary, and then
Yeah.
I am the unruly child, and really I was just pleading for somebody to save me.
So you leave to get out
Mhm.
of this.
Mhm.
The adult film industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, but people always wonder, like, how does somebody ever find that? How does somebody get into that? Like, where does that it's all around us, but how did it find you?
So, it wasn't even just the film industry, actually, and this is the first you're kind of hearing. I'm actually giving this out. I haven't said a whole lot of this, but it was escort
Okay.
agency. I saw an ad in a paper. I was 18 with a mindset of 12, maybe, and I
Mhm.
was like, "Hey, that sounds good. I'll get paid." So I got on a bus, which ended me up on a plane, and I showed up in a town that I had no idea what I was doing, who I was meeting, where I was going, how I was gonna exist, and then
Were you
that was
scared?
the next few years of my life.
Scared?
Um, to be honest, no, I
No.
wasn't. I was so excited to taste what I thought maybe existed out there, but I wasn't really sure because I hadn't seen the movies and I hadn't heard the music. I was very sheltered, and so the second that plane landed, I was like, "Hello, world," and it was good until it wasn't.
Okay, well, let's kinda dive into that. When how did your nightmare land on you? Like, what was what was the event?
So I would say that typically it goes you get a taste of money and
Mhm.
power, or freedom is what you tell yourself it is. And then you can't control yourself. And I know for me, I'm sheltered. So I was like, well, kid in a
Yeah,
candy
he's like
store.
a wild child left let loose,
Yeah.
right,
And no one
right.
who was controlling me, mom and dad weren't there anymore.
Mhm,
And everybody in that world is saying, hey, it's fine. Do whatever you want. You do you. And
mhm.
so there was no guidance. And eventually the drugs and the partying become addiction. And the addiction becomes chaos. And then the second you get in trouble, you're in the system. And it starts with something small, but now you're addicted to drugs. And so you're more careless and you can't complete probation and it just spirals, you know?
Hmm.
And it spiraled so far that I lost everything, got kicked out of the state. I don't know how I didn't do prison time, should have, might have helped me sooner, but we're all on our journey.
Hmm.
And I moved back home to Arizona, but nothing changed, just my location.
Hmm.
And, you know, I had all the stories and I was living the life. And then I meet somebody and I decide, okay, I'll do the white picket fence thing. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have children. I'm going to send them to a private school. I'm going to pretend that everything's okay, except it was an abusive marriage. And I sat in it for 10 years
Oh, wow,
and I
Kristen.
lost myself even more because I never understood loving myself. So I looked for love in other people. And this time was different because I had little ones. And the only time that I had been sober since the second I started doing drugs at 18
Hmm.
was when I was pregnant and nursing. So that 3 or 4 year window. The rest of the
Hmm.
time, it's been heavy addiction because I needed to drown out what was in here. My nightmare was I hung out with the wrong people. I was looking for love. My children are 5 and 6 at this time. And I cause a car accident for said person. I feel guilt. I am older.
Hmm.
I loan money to go get pain pills to help the accident, except the money gets stolen. And so when we go to retrieve the money, we do things we're not supposed to do, which is crossing a threshold. And I picked up an armed robbery and assault with a deadly weapon charge, and I never went home again. Well, until I came home.
Wow, Kristen. So I mean, what you just said there is like a whole bunch of a nightmare.
It
Um,
is.
how old would you, so your kids were, you said were 5 and 4,
5 and 6, 5,
5 and
6. Yeah.
6. Um, so you're this mom, you get this charge with this in the wrong place, wrong area, trying to get by. When they take you in, did you know how serious this situation you knew, like,
Mhm.
what was
My
going through your
codefendant was
mind?
freaking out. Yeah, we were in the back of the armored car because SWAT had to come, and he was freaking out. This wasn't my first rodeo. I
Mhm,
think that I had been admitting that I needed help. Somebody needed to step in because if it wasn't me, it was going to be something harmful to my children.
mhm.
So I couldn't do the job right. And I knew in that moment in the back of that truck, I'm going to pay for all those things. And it's going to start now. And it did.
How long did it take you to get through the whole process from the time that you get picked up to the time that I'm assuming you didn't go to trial. I'm assuming there was some type of plea.
It was.
How long did all that take for you?
So the first month and a half in county was really hard. It's the worst place I've ever been and seen. I would not wish that on anybody.
No, county
Um,
is the worst place. I think, don't you, wouldn't you agree that's rock bottom?
Yeah, it's rock bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, you stoop to levels. It's sad.
Mhm,
Um, I I feel bad for anybody who's in there for a stint of time because I just can't imagine what that does to you. It's like being in the hole. You know, you're not going to come out the same person. It's rough.
mhm.
And my parents, I'm blessed enough that family blessed them and they were able to bail me out while we figured things out. And it was probably less about me and more for my children because at the same time, their father also completely removed himself from the picture. And so they had my parents, their grandparents, which
Mhm,
a lot of people don't have.
mhm.
But my parents allowed me to come out and spend the time with them while we figured things out before I turned myself in. So it was about a year, and I turned myself in mid 18.
So, and I meant to ask you, when all this was going on, Kristen, and you moved back, did your parents sense that things were not right, or was it more of you were living this life, you were living 2 lives before you
My
you had
parents have always known that
okay.
things are a disaster. My parents have always been on the edge of their seat. Those poor people they've
They've
gone
been
down
on a
that rabbit
journey.
hole.
Yeah,
Yes, but
yeah.
I think that the thing that makes it really beautiful is we have come to a forgiving standpoint and understanding because there is no manual for parenting. We're all
Mhm,
going to make mistakes.
mhm.
Some are really damaging, but it's what we do with them and move forward. And I would not be who I am now, nor would I be able to have the impact I have now, be able to reach all the women in the avenues that I can if I did not experience it myself. Because I do know that when I was placed in front of counselors, many times I thought, what do you know? Have you
Right.
been through this?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to listen.
Yeah.
So the more you know.
It's so true. The more you know. The Okay, so you got a year between all this, and then you go in. Um, what were you thinking? And how long were you supposed to go? What was your
So
sentence?
shamefully, I thought I was going to have one hell of a time.
Mhm.
I was not in the mindset to change.
Right.
I was going to do my time. I put money on my books so I'd have a cushion, and I was just going to do me, and then I'd get out because I knew that there would be an end date. I had no idea what was going to occur in that place, the goods and the bad. I
How
am
long did they
also really
sentence you
blessed.
for?
3 years, which
Okay.
I hate to admit, to be honest, because that's a drop in the bucket. And there's people in there doing double, triple that for way less. So it's, the system. It's
Mhm.
the scales are not weighed evenly, and I'm grateful that that's all the time I needed.
So you went in thinking, "Okay, I'm gonna do my time. I'm gonna do whatever I need to do. I don't need this, but I have to do it." When did things start feeling different for you or your mindset having to change?
I had a counselor believe in me for no reason. I was his clerk, and I tried to get tickets so I didn't have to go down to minimum.
Mhm,
And he asked me why. And he didn't like my reason, which was, well, hearsay. Who wants to be in a bay when you could be in a cell?
mhm.
And he said, well, I'm not going to write that ticket. And then he didn't write the next two. So I reclassed, and he told me, "You're smart. Like, you don't belong here." And then he said, which was really hurtful at that time to my pride, he said, "You're not a gangster." And that stuck with me. And when you hit minimum, it's very different. The mindset is different. And it took me a while to get in the flow of things, but I found my groove. And that's when everything changed because it was that sliver of hope. And then being around other people that had the slivers of hope, and it was being removed from the utter darkness and moving forward. And I felt that for the first time.
Wow, that is so interesting because those things can be something that can change your life, like a counselor saying that something like that to you. Yeah, I was interviewing, somebody the other day where he had the exact opposite experience with a counselor. He told the counselor he wanted to be an attorney. The counselor laughed at him. He is an attorney now. He had to go through a lot to get there because the board and everything else that was involved in that. But, that inspired him in a different way. But this person believed in you, saw something in you, and you opened up to it, which how far along in your sentence were you when that happened?
Just under a year.
Okay.
So I'd say almost the half point.
Okay. Now, are you staying at this time, Kristen, plugged in to the kids and your parents and that, or okay. So that journey
I had a
is
lot of visits. Yeah, I
that's
had a lot of
great,
visits until COVID.
right? So you experienced COVID in prison, which
Yeah.
I can't imagine experiencing COVID in prison because there's just these little bitty things that you think that you have, like, ownership of, and it's usually, like, your schedule, like, "Okay, I go work out at this time, and then I go do my job at this time, and I go take my shower." You get kind of institutionalized into that routine because you think you own it. I sit here, I sit on this. I know fitness became a big deal for you. Did did that Was that all part of this change in the mindset?
It was. It was the biggest part.
Yeah.
I've always been an athlete. and
Yeah.
people work out, not like on the men's prison, but on minimum, I deep dived into fitness. You've got ample amounts of time,
Mhm.
and people started to notice, and they wanted some of that, but I wasn't there yet. So it took me a while, and I was growing.
Mhm.
I definitely was not who I am today, or even a portion of it. I was still majorly growing. And it took a few times of people saying, "Hey, why do you do that? That's ugly." And I realized the more that that happened, that if I owned that ugliness, I could actually fix it instead
Wow.
of pretending it didn't exist and everybody else knows. Like, that just didn't make sense to me, but I had never thought that way. And I just wanted to be different because I do remember the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and
Same
over
thing over and
again
over
and
and
expecting a different
expecting a
result.
different result,
But
right?
we do it. So what if we don't do that?
Mhm.
And I guess that led me to leading a class, which was huge for me because I kept saying, "No, I'm not going to
Was
train you.
there
I'm working out
already
for
a
you."
class, Kristen? Like
No.
this okay, so how does this happen for you in prison? Because it's not really easy to do that, it's to get people together and think, "Okay, we're gonna do this all together." I mean, that's
It's true. Yeah,
you
I have no
know?
idea. I have no idea. This is what I can tell you.
Okay,
6th grade, I'm pulled into the principal's office with the other popular boy in the grade, and the principal says to our mothers, "These are leaders right here. It's just which direction are they going to lead people?" And I remember, this guy, what does he know? And I will never forget that because it's true. I am a leader. And I've been leading people the wrong way the whole time
yeah.
because, well, I had no idea. And so in that moment, I realized, oh, I'm going to lead these people through this fitness class. Really, I just want them to leave me alone. But if I do a class, I can do it all at the same time. So it's one, nutshell of people, and
Yeah.
I don't have to divvy up too much time. So I did something very uncomfortable. And for the first time, I gave a speech to the yard. And
Oh.
so many people showed up. And then 75 women signed up for my class,
Whoa,
a
whoa, whoa, let's
60-day
talk about
commitment.
this. Kristen, let's talk about this speech. I mean, so you give a speech on a prison yard, which is kind of a big deal. I mean,
Yeah.
for all of us who've been on a prison yard, um, a speech on a prison yard can happen, but what what did you do? What was it? What did you say?
I wrote little flyers and I put them in the bays. I told people when to meet me in the chow hall,
Uh-huh.
and I had my closest friends show up for the support, and then I
Okay.
had them bring their friends, and then before you knew it, the chow hall was packed.
Okay.
And then I just led with my heart, and I will tell you this, I cried, they cried, it made me cry more, but it led with this. For whatever reason, I feel compelled to help you and share what I have. If you want it, it's yours. If you don't want it, that's fine. But eventually we're going to get out of here because everybody on that yard is 5 years or under.
Mhm.
And if there's something that I know, it's if you feel confident out here, then there might be a chance that you're going to feel confident in here. And the last thing I want is for women, especially, to leave those gates and hate what they see in the mirror because we haven't looked in a mirror for so long and think, you know what? I'm just going to hit that pipe for a weekend and I'm going to be okay, because they won't be. And that's why I ran the class and the women showed up.
Wow. So that was the start of the blueprint.
It was. Yeah.
Okay, so this thing starts up, Kristen, and the first class, what are you thinking after this first class is over? As Kristin Kline, I just did a class in prison with a bunch of women who seemed to be really into it.
I thought I was nuts. I
Yeah.
thought they were nuts. I had no former coaching skills. I hadn't taken formal, athletic classes, but not exercise classes. And so I just kind of pulled things out from wherever I could. I started reaching out to get things sent in. And then anything I could possibly learn, I retaught. And they kept showing up. And I had two classes, advanced and beginners. I separated them. We tracked it. I had them journal the weight loss we saw, the camaraderie we saw, and then somehow I was able to get certificates printed out. And what's amazing is I posted not too long ago on Facebook, and these women started posting their certificates that they still have.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. The question I was going to ask you too is like, okay, there's a bunch of COs around, that are walking around. What was, did they accept this? Did they cheer it on? Was there support? What happened with on that side of things?
I did try to make it official. I was maintenance, and I knew I was leaving in 3 months. That was the goal. So I wanted to step away from maintenance and run the yard. And anybody who was on that yard knew I was an athlete and people wanted to train. So I had a good rapport. But the warden and the deputy warden at that time had shot me down. They would not release me from my job, which
Mm,
only gave me a small sliver of time that I could do this in. But there were so many women, so I just committed anyways. And then my immediate bosses understood and they were easier on me for the work
mhm.
days. And we did it anyways. But I can tell you this, there was not a day that we worked out that there were not officers everywhere on both sides of that yard watching.
Mm. What time of day did you do these classes?
In on the weekends in the morning, 3 hours. In the on the weekdays after work. So you had to choose to come home, dress out, miss chow, or have somebody get it, and then we ran class till the yard closed in time for you to shower. It took dedication.
That's fantastic. Well, let's take a break there because I want to talk about what and how you were thinking about reentry into this back into society and how this all happened for you. A lot of people don't like how they show up online. Many individuals think there's no hope when it comes to managing your reputation on Google. There is hope. It's called the Discoverability Company, and they can help you. Whether you're building a reputation from scratch or you're repairing your search results after a negative news story, Discoverability can also help you how you're portrayed on popular AI services like ChatGPT. To learn more, visit discoverability.co. It's not .com, it's .co. And listeners of Nightmare Success can take $100 off with coupon code Nightmare Success. And the Nightmare Success podcast is sponsored by the White Collar Support Group, world's first support group devoted to people navigating the white collar criminal justice system. I'm a member of the White Collar Support Group, and I can tell you this is a bunch of people who help each other through the criminal justice journey for free. Whether you're just starting your journey or you made it through the other side, this is great space for you. You can join us on Zoom Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. For more information, go to prisonist.org. That's prisonist.org. So you get all this going, Kristen, and I'm thinking you're feeling good about yourself. I'm thinking this is, you're inspiring women, but I'm sure it's inspiring you. I mean, it's kind of like I'm thinking when you're talking about this, it's kind of like when I got started at this show 4 seasons ago. Um, I didn't know what to think about it because I didn't know anything about podcasting or having a show or anything. In the first, you know, interview I did, I thought, "Oh my gosh, I love this. This is a platform. These are stories that don't get told, and it could possibly change the narrative that these stories could actually make someone relatable, that there could be connections made. So when they run across somebody who's because they don't know people who've gone to prison, they'll think, "Oh, well, wait, maybe I'll give that person an opportunity because I know this and that," or they themselves use the tools that Kristin Kline uses to get themselves unstuck. And so it re-inspires me. When I interview you, Kristen, I get re-inspired. Did you get re-inspired by helping these women on the yard?
Absolutely. I mean, beyond inspiration, that's the very first time I felt purpose. And
Yeah.
I never even knew what that meant before.
Yeah. Okay. So you've gone through this hellacious journey of, you know, everything that's happened up to this point. You're gonna have an out date. What are you thinking about that out date? What are you thinking about reentering society?
So truth be told, I didn't want to reenter. I was terrified.
Mhm.
I knew the safety net that I had created inside, and I had become this person that was different inside. But once you get outside, life hits you in the face, and I don't know what that entails. I don't know how to adult. I was in my late 30s. To me, that was old. What am I going to do? And I felt like I had the scarlet letter F.
Mhm.
I was embarrassed. I was unskilled. I knew there was places I couldn't go, things I didn't want to do, but then what am I left with? And I'd always been taken care of. Going into prison, I was married. I got divorced in prison.
Mhm.
So, I wasn't sure what to do. Inside, I did meet somebody in the most unlikeliest of places. And it started with friendship first, and it was a person that called me on my behaviors because I needed somebody to do that. I needed somebody who was willing to air my ugly so I could face them head on, and she was strong enough to do that. And so I didn't wanna leave that person behind either, but I knew that my kids needed me. So, I hit the gate, and, I was blessed enough to be able to go home to my parents who were raising my kids. I had a bedroom, and, I thought it was ironic because this is a place that I had run from, for so long,
Mhm.
but, the universe knew what I needed, and I still had things to face. And to be honest, when I first got out, fighting is what I did with my mother. And then something changed just like that. I don't know. There was just this moment, and truly, this is what's funny. You know that saying, "When life gives you lemons?" And it was that saying. And so sometimes I throw that out there. I'm just making lemonade. So that's what I do. I make lemonade.
Well, I mean, because I always want to dive into reentry because there's, this show goes into 1,100 prisons on the Adovo platform. And I think a lot of people, what happens is you have community in prison because everybody is, they can't go anywhere. So you're dealing with the same hell together. Um, and it becomes known. And that becomes your ugly routine that you're used to. And, you'll see people, and I know, Kristen, you probably did too. You'll see people that will get close to the door of their, date, and they'll do something. Maybe they'll put hands on a guard, or they'll violate, or they'll do something to stay. And what has happened is they become so familiar, and, the arms of comfort have come around them in this prison, and it's something they hate, but it's something they know, and the unknown then becomes freedom and society, and it isn't easy to get back out. That's one thing that shouldn't be sugarcoated, but it can be done, but you have to have the right mindset to know that, yes, you will have a scarlet letter on you,
Mhm.
and the barriers, it's legal to discriminate against you. How did you get through it?
I think my purpose pushed me further than my fears. I was just tired of living in that stigma, and changing my mindset is everything that I worked on. And that's what I discovered through fitness. When you're pounding it on the cement, and you have to be really creative in prison because you don't have the typical weights, and you're going in a loop around the track, you think a lot.
Mhm.
And it just kept coming back to the insanity and why things weren't working. And I'm intelligent, so I couldn't get my brain around, why are things this way? Why can't I get them here? What is different about everybody else? And then I realized, oh, your mind is like a muscle. Your behaviors are like muscles, and it's uncomfortable while you're training them. But as soon as they're trained, then it is growth from there on out. And that is what I continued to do. And so it started with little seeds. But then as I got out, I made strides. I nicked music from my life. If I was listening to something, it was audiobooks or podcasts from people that I respected, admired, and wanted to be like.
Mhm.
And I started to fill my entire being with the things that I wanted to become. And then I became them because I was doing the work. I was showing up. My actions and my words were aligning. I was doing more work. I was doing
Mhm.
it for free, something I had to learn. And then I did some more work for free. And that was basically how I did it. And the more that I did that, the more the stigma and the scarlet F faded
Mhm.
because, well, when you do the work, that's all people remember. And I slowly saw that felon status fade away. And believe me, it's there. I'm lucky enough that with the nonprofit, I don't have to try to seek approval for a job because it is hard. And yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Reentry is hard. Pretending
Mhm.
it's not, that's not, that's not legit. Hard. It's hard. And
Right.
it's emotionally grueling. Being told no is rough. But if you have that mindset and you know what you want, and you see people like us, people like Kristen, people like you, we exist. That's why we have to continue doing what we're doing because we're the ones that know what it's like to be in the dark. That's why I make it my entire goal to go back in and pull people out of the fire. One at a time, maybe.
I love that. And, I think the thing that you keep coming back to is that purpose, and that made you go to the people that you thought, "Okay, I need to know more about that. I admire that. I wanna be that," and you don't get there without purpose. Well, like, there's an old Chinese proverb that says, "You get knocked down 7 times, get up 8." The only reason why you would get up the 8th time is you have a reason to get up, and I think that's what you're saying, Kristen, is that you found your purpose. It obviously was not easy, but it was you started training your mind out of the negative and showing the positive movie, and your brain doesn't know the difference. You know,
Mhm.
it believes fear because it'll and if fear it doesn't know the difference between real or not real. And the same thing was with positive goals. It doesn't know as long as you're telling yourself that you can do it and you're putting all the effort and work to do it, it starts happening. So convicted comeback. 'Cause I love I love the thing that, people love comeback stories, and I think that's another thing, Kristen, too, that, um, as hard as reentry is, people are cheering for you if you're putting in the effort, because they naturally like to see people fall and fail, but they like to see people get back up and have a comeback. How did convicted comeback become real in making it and it becoming something?
So I have to give enough credit to my spouse, Megan, because when you find an accountability partner, that really motivates you. And when you find that bond from prison, you have that understanding because you've done that same journey. So I held that bond really close, and we knew that we shouldn't be here,
Mhm.
and maybe a gesture of gratitude, we should just give it away, whatever it was. So we started small with like taking things to the homeless. And we were really struggling. I waited 2 years for her to get out. She has a completely different story because she took her prison blue collar trade, and now she excels and has out excelled all the men in her field. And she's the top in her AC company. And so that's just amazing. And we just
Very
made this
cool.
agreement that she would work and I would be able to chase my dreams and create the nonprofit because our entire goal was if we didn't know that we could make it, how many more do you think don't know?
Mhm.
So, isn't it our duty to go and share that word? And so, convicted comeback. There you go.
And you and I were talking before we got on about, going back into the prison. First of all, how did you get back into the prison? It's not easy.
It isn't. It's
Like,
funny. I wrote a book, little self-help book. It's called How to Adult After Incarceration.
I
And
love that
someday I would
title. What was that again? How to adult after
How to Adult
incarceration.
After Incarceration.
I love that.
And it is because, I needed a manual. I needed somebody to tell me, "Here's the steps." And so I
Did
created
you
it
come up
just in
with that
case somebody else
title?
needed it. No,
That
I
is
didn't. I have not published it.
oh gosh, that's a catchy title. I love it.
I really wanna get it in the hands of, like, some second chance programmers because
Yeah.
it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
my hardest critic, my wife, Megan, says it's good. And so I know it works because it's truly the things that we implemented. And so if we've done it, it's gonna work for you too, you know? And so, I presented the book to the prison and they mostly laughed. I don't think they read it,
Okay.
or understood the magnitude behind it, but they were like, "We have programs for this." And so I said, "Okay, well, I really want to come in. How do I do it?" And I had just come off paper
Okay.
because that's also what I believed, that you couldn't go in until you're off paper. And, so
Is
I'm
that
listing
true?
all the things. No, it's not true.
Okay. I didn't know.
I think it depends on who you wanna go in with, how you're getting in there, but
Okay.
it's not true, and that's something I definitely hold value in and am changing.
Yeah.
Those that are living the story share the best experiences.
Absolutely.
Um, and so I started listing all the things that I could do, and they stopped at fitness, and they said, "Well, fitness? You wanna come in and do fitness? Sure, you can do that." So I started writing programs around fitness as the medium, but
Mhm.
then I could plug in my mindset
Mhm.
inside group and kinda disguise it and then have my time with them. And so that's what we did, boot camp.
Okay, so this started, gosh, I'm trying to think. Has it been 2 years, maybe a year or something?
So November last year was our very first program that we started to
Okay.
run. We ran a 6-week boot camp with a graduation, and we had 42 graduates.
Okay. So tell me, Kristen, what was it like to you were doing this while you were in prison. You go back now and you're putting this whole curriculum in place, this boot camp. Uh, how did let us know how did that feel? Like what was it like?
So entering was weird. Going through in plain clothes was weird.
Yeah,
Seeing officers that I knew was weird. Seeing officers that didn't like me and gave me a hard time, that
really
were
weird.
shocked,
Yeah.
really weird. Being handed a radio, super weird, terrifying.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you didn't have any keys jangling though, did you?
I did not have any keys, but I'm telling you, the first time that they gave us a radio to go on the yard, I was
Yeah.
like, not touching it. I don't know what to do with that.
Right.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Um, Seeing women that I did time with broke my heart
Yeah.
because I knew they had gotten out before me and they were back. And every single time that I went, it just further confirmed why I was there. One, because people came out to listen to me.
Mhm.
Whatever reason, I have that leader status. Two, they recognized me, that drew them out. I speak their language. I hold that platform. And so I don't know why. I'm grateful for it. Maybe I don't even want it sometimes, but I've got it. And so I just use it and it works. And we continue to show up. And even when I don't want to go because I'm exhausted and I'm sick and life happens, I think about what it's like to be them and waiting for somebody to show up.
Mhm.
So I put my shoes on and I go. And it doesn't even take me 5 minutes of being with them, and I'm ecstatic. And I remember why I do what I do. And I love them. And I can tell you, I haven't made a dime in over a year, but I
Well,
will
I can tell
still
you
show up to do it.
it's crazy. If people wanna check you out, it's Coach Zero Excuses. You can see what Kristen does and the effort she puts in and the difference in these people that you see their face change and their body, just the posture and how they handle themselves. The whole thing, I just got so inspired by all the different pieces of this that you're doing and knowing that you're doing it because it meant so much to you and you're giving back. I think it's very meaningful when you can go through your own nightmare and experience something that's meaningful to pay forward to other people to help them. It just makes something out of you know somebody I can't remember who says this, but what happened to us doesn't define us. It's a part of us.
Yeah.
We carry it with us. You and I going to prison, we're different from going to prison. Not that that's all we're about. It's just part of who we are and how we identify with looking at things now. I look at things differently than I did before I went in. And there's nothing that can change that. That's just the way I am. I also experience moments differently. I think about, you know, and I've been out 9 years and you've been out 4 or 5 years.
Almost 5, yeah.
Yeah. And I still, and I don't want to lose this, Kristen. The moments like I've got, uh, the other day we were babysitting our grandkids and they're both 3 years old. And I was thinking I was just actually we had this little tea thing and they were hitting the ball. They're doing really good. And I was thinking how crazy it would be if I wasn't here. I'm in
Mm.
this moment right now. And how much I just appreciated the fact that it could have been so much different. And I wouldn't be here to experience it if I would have gotten a longer sentence. And those type of things also, you experience time differently, and I think what I see with you, Kristen, too, is that you're not wasting any time. You have energy. You're using this energy in a positive way, but you're not wasting any time. You're putting everything you have into everything you do, and I think it's great. I just where do you wanna go from here with this?
I think we're getting there. We have some big things coming up. Our program started small with one class on one yard, and then the seniors reached out. So I started running a seniors class. And then other people from other yards started reaching out. So we created the Freedom Tour, which is 15 hours inside the Women's State Prison. We go to every single yard and see 7 populations, closed custody included. So it's a pretty intense day. We've been doing that for the last 5 months. Um, and then we went and started to visit the men. I'm a certified personal trainer, and so is Megan and some others on our team. So we are going to start certifying men and women under convicted comeback, and they're going to be the comeback coaches. And now
Wow.
we are going to spread
So they
what
would
we
get a
do.
real certification for that?
Yes, we are partnered with ISSA National, and yes, this is real. We've been
That's
pitching it to a couple
huge.
of the men's prisons and the women. Yes. Mhm.
Wow, Kristen. Wow. Uh, I always ask people this at the end of the show, and I'm curious what your answer is all this that you've gone through, what do you think's your biggest takeaway from this journey?
People can change. I know it's so simple, but we are conditioned to think that we can't change. Can't teach an old dog new tricks, but you can change. And we're all the same. Like, even if we're all addicts, we all have that addict story. Maybe there's something different in our background. When I started to share parts of my background, I realized how many people also went through those same things. And I share them because I want people to know, hey, if this was your trauma, you're not alone. Go make that lemonade and then change from it. Anytime someone points out a flaw, anytime you see an error in your being, that is your opportunity to fix it. What an amazing blessing is that? You can literally perfect everything that you are. Point out those flaws, accept them with gratitude. I do, and that's what I teach anybody in my class. We can become literally anything that we want to. We have been stifled for decades thinking that we can't. So I am here, and my entire team, which is now becoming an national tribe, is here to tell you, you want it, go get it. Do the work. You can become anything you want.
Wow. It's all about that mindset, the right
It is.
mindset.
Mhm.
Like you said, Kristen, you can accomplish things you never thought you could accomplish because you're you have purpose, you're stepping forward into it, and things continue to happen. The other thing too that I think that you're doing that's so impressive is that these things are also fearful because each time you do something bigger, it's it's an unknown, and you have willed yourself to step into the unknown to get to what you want, and that's also part of the journey. And keep
It is.
going, Kristen.
Thank you.
It's inspiring stuff. It really is. Um, I want to thank Homestead Financial Home Mortgage letting me use this podcast room and the fancy lights and stuff. If you've got home mortgage needs out there, Greg Afteev is your guy. He knows all that stuff. If you're looking for a book before Kristen's comes out, I've got one. It's called Nightmare Success, Loyalty, Betrayal, Life Behind Bars, Adapting and Finally Breaking Free. If you got time, leave me a review on Apple. I love that. Just love reading those. If you want to know what I'm doing, go to brentcassidy.com. I spell it wrong. I spell it with a TY, not a DY. As I used to say to my people when I was writing my emails back and forth from Leavenworth, stay strong. I'll do the same. Kristin Kline, I got to tell you, like I said at the beginning, you are energy and inspiration all bottled up. I just hope you just continue to just share that out with everyone because it's making a difference.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing my story.
Nightmare success in and out.